Welcome to Hub-Bub, the People's Podcast, where we engage our citizens and investors with the activities of the Planning and Code Administration and encourage everyone to contribute to Hagerstown's growth. Welcome to the Hub-Bub Podcast. This is Donnie, and I'm here with my wonderful co-host, Sean Brown. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Donnie. It's a beautiful day despite the weather and the rain.
You got that right. Well, if you are watching us right now, welcome. This is a new look for the Hub-Bub Podcast. We are now on YouTube. Pretty exciting. We are continuing with our other platforms. So if podcast, just listening to us is more your style, that's awesome. But we also know video is important to people and they like to see us. They want to know who is talking to them. Well, here we are, the faces of Donnie and Sean. We wanted to make sure we reached a wider audience with the podcast and offer another option to take in our content. So thank you all for tuning in.
Absolutely. Just to expand on that, we realize that people who listen are a wide variety of people because with our department, we're trying to appeal to people all the way from the developer who owns a lot of property to the person who really represents a lot of the citizens in the city.
Right.
And they rent property. So the information that we have, it's really geared towards everybody, and so that's who we're trying to reach. So we look forward to doing that with each and every podcast. So our podcast today, what is it really talking about? Well, let's see if you can guess. According to the CDC, each year, more than 400 Americans die from it. More than 20,000 visit the emergency room each year, and more than 4,000 are hospitalized. And these deaths and injuries are typically caused by improperly or malfunctioning equipment. That's the cause. So what are we talking about? Carbon monoxide.
Yes, sir.
That's a serious issue. And especially with this time of year, we're going into winter, and that's when most of these things happen. So it's a timely message that we want to share with the people as we go into the winter season. So the podcast today is really going to focus on a number of things. We're going to answer a number of questions. What is carbon monoxide? What are the risks? How can we identify its effects? And how can we protect our loved ones, those in our family? And sometimes it's hard to know if you're exposed to or not. So, once you realize it, then if you find you're exposed, what are the next steps? But what we'd like to mention, and we want people to understand this, that a lot of the information that we're going to share is very general in nature, but then sometimes they're code specific. So we always encourage you, if you have questions, maybe just check with your local ordinances to make sure that whatever you're doing meets code. So what is it? What is carbon monoxide? Well, this is what makes it difficult. It's odorless, it's colorless, it's tasteless, and it can kill. Unlike a lot of other gases that kind of maybe separate, maybe up high or low, that are heavier or lighter than air, carbon monoxide, it's none of those. So it just mixes with the air. And that's what makes it dangerous. So that's what we're going to talk about today.
So if you can't see it, you can't smell it, how are you supposed to know where to find it? It's tough. But here's some general places that you can find it. CO is found in fumes produced anytime that you burn fuel in cars or trucks, small engines, gas stoves, gas dryers, gas water heaters, gas ranges, lanterns, grills, fireplaces, and wood stoves, or fuel-fired furnaces. CO can build up indoors and poison people and animals who breathe it in. And as you can see here, a common theme with all of that is gas. So be careful when using those gas appliances. And now, who's at risk from CO poisoning? Everyone is at risk for CO poisoning. Infants, the elderly, people with chronic heart disease, anemia, or people who have breathing problems are more likely to get sick from CO.
Yeah, and of course, those people that are important in our lives we're the most concerned about.
Definitely.
So what's important for us to be able to do is to be able to identify the symptoms. Now, it's difficult, and the reason we say that is because of this. Here are some of the most common symptoms of CO poisoning. They're headaches, dizziness, weakness, upset stomach, vomiting, chest pain, and confusion. So when we think about all those symptoms, they're almost like flu-like, aren't they?
Right.
So it sometimes can be difficult to differentiate. Often mistaken for a real case of the flu could result in delayed or even a misdiagnosed treatment. So that's where the danger comes in. So again, we have to be aware of that, because if we breathe in a lot of CO, it can make us pass out, and it can even kill us, because what CO does is it replaces the oxygen in our red blood cells. Of course, we need that to live.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what we have to especially be mindful of is if we have loved ones that who are sleeping and they're perhaps also under the influence of drugs or alcohol, they are especially susceptible to injury and even death before they even have the symptoms. And then CO, it really, as we mentioned, it gets in the way of the body absorbing oxygen and then getting that oxygen to the vital organs. And of course, those symptoms that we just talked about, they vary widely based on a number of things. How long has one been exposed to the level? What have been the levels? What's the duration and the general health and the age of the individual? So just so many things that we just need to be aware of to be able to recognize them.
Definitely. Well, thank you for that information. It's very important. All right, so how can we prevent CO poisoning in my home? The first thing is to install a battery-operated or battery backup CO detector in your home, and check or replace the battery when you change the time on your clocks each spring and fall. All right, so we're going to show off some units that we have here with us today. So this one here is a combo unit. It is a smoke and carbon monoxide detector. And this one is hardwired, so it has AC primary power to it. This one here is also a combo unit. So again, it's a smoke and carbon monoxide detector. And this one is a sealed battery. So it does not have any electric running to it. It just has a 10-year battery built into it. Now this one here is important to recognize because it is an illegal type detector through the state of Maryland. The state of Maryland does not allow units that plug directly into the wall like this one. And as you can see, this one is just a carbon monoxide alarm. And finally, we have this one here. This is a carbon monoxide alarm. It is not a combo unit. It is just for carbon monoxide, and it has a 10-year battery in this one. So no hardwired power to this. So now that we know what the detectors look like, let's talk about where they should be located. Be sure to place your detector where it will wake you up if it alarms, such as outside your bedroom. Consider buying a detector with a digital readout. This detector can tell you the highest level of CO concentration in your home in addition to alarming you. Replace your CO detector every 5 years. And have your heating systems, your water heater, and other gas, oil, or coal-burning appliances serviced by a qualified technician every year. The City of Hagerstown has a rental licensing program, and during our inspections, we look for these service tags or stickers to ensure that the equipment has been tested within a year from the date of our inspection. So it is important to keep all your equipment up to date with inspections. Another tip is to do not use portable, flameless chemical heaters indoors. And when you buy gas equipment, buy only equipment carrying the seal of a national testing agency, such as the Underwriters Laboratories. And make sure your gas appliances are vented properly. Horizontal vent pipes for appliances such as a water heater should go up slightly as they go outdoors. This prevents CO from leaking if the joints or pipes aren't fitting tightly.
Yeah, very, very important information. You know, it's a lot to think about when it comes to our equipment, and that would include things like our chimneys. Sometimes you can just easily forget them. They're out of sight, out of mind, but really they should be checked and cleaned every year. And you should have a professional, because they have a way of looking at those chimneys to make sure you don't have any cracks or things blocking, debris that could cause this CO gas to build up in your home. And you never want to path a vent pipe with tape, gum, or something else. And make these, homemade patches.
Did you say gum?
Well,
Hey.
it's interesting what sometimes people will use that they have at their disposal.
People have to, there's a reason you said that, because somebody has done that before, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so you want to use the right thing because the last thing you want to happen is to have carbon build up in your home or even your cabin or your camper just because of the dangers that we've already mentioned. And this would also include, and we talked about this in our last podcast with heat. Naturally, this time of year, sometimes sources of heat can be scarce and people want to use what they have. So really, you don't want to use things like your gas range or your oven for heating. They're not meant for that. Using a gas range or oven for heating can cause a buildup of CO inside your home, your cabin, or even your camper. And it may go without saying that we shouldn't do this, but again, sometimes people are desperate, but never you want to burn any type of charcoal inside. That gives off a lot of CO. You never want to use portable gas camps, gas stoves indoors. And using a gas camp stove indoors can cause CO to build up inside your home, again, your cabin or your camper. And same thing with generators. You don't want to use those inside your homes or even your basements or your garage. And it's interesting to note that we have to pay attention to where, even if we have the generators outside, where they are in proximity of our window. No closer than 20 feet.
Okay.
Because people become overcome because they put the generator too close to their window and the CO gas just goes right in the window, and the same thing happens. So you have to be mindful of those things when it comes to your windows, your doors, or your vents, anything coming in your home. And when using a generator, make sure that you use a battery-powered or backup CO detector in your home. That way you're sure that it is working.
Fantastic. Okay, so a common thing we hear from people is, how can I avoid CO poisoning from my car or truck? So the first thing you can do is have a mechanic check the exhaust system of your car or truck every year. A small leak in the exhaust system can lead to a buildup of CO inside the car. Never run your car or truck inside a garage that is attached to your house, even with the garage door open. Some people think, oh, I'll just leave the garage door open and I won't be at risk for the CO. That's not always the case. So always open the door to a detached garage to let in fresh air when you run a car or truck inside. And if you drive a car or SUV with a tailgate, when you open the tailgate, open the vents or windows to make sure air is moving through. And if only the tailgate is open, CO from the exhaust will be pulled into the car or SUV.
Yeah.
Okay, so how should you respond when your carbon monoxide alarm goes off? First thing is to stay calm. And that's with anything. Fire, carbon monoxide, anything. Just remain calm so that you can think correctly and think straight. Should I call 911 right away? Well, does anyone feel ill or experiencing those flu-like symptoms that Sean talked about? Do they have a headache, nausea, dizziness? If yes, call 911. Failure to evacuate immediately may result in prolonged exposure and worsening effects from the possible carbon monoxide gas. The best initial treatment for CO gas exposure is fresh air. So if you can get to fresh air, regardless of, if you even think you have CO poisoning, get fresh air and then contact medical personnel. And it's not a bad idea to leave the premises to at least evaluate the situation. That's where you can really get calm, compose yourself, make sure the family and pets are okay, and go from there.
Absolutely.
Well, I think that wraps it up for all of our carbon monoxide information. Please, as always, follow us on social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. You can search for us by searching for City of Hagerstown, PCAD. And you can also subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. And also, if you're listening to this podcast right now and you didn't know we were doing video, go to YouTube and do a search for PCAD, City of Hagerstown, so you can find us. And if you are watching us on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button so that you'll be notified whenever we post new videos. And I think that about does it for...
Yeah, I think it was a lot of good information, and we really thank everyone for listening. We know that it took time out of your schedule to listen, but we feel it's important. So we are appreciative of your attention. In fact, next month, our January podcast is going to deal with an important topic. It's important to us, and we know that's important for the citizens and people that work with us, and that's the subject of customer service.
Yes, I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to talk about what improvements we've already done to get us to this point, which is one reason we're doing this podcast, to just really improve our customer service. And then we're going to talk about what are our goals as a department from here on out to better serve the public. But anyway, so as some of you may know who watch each month at the end of our podcast, we feature a local musical guest. And it's nice to be able to give some exposure to some of our local music talent.
I agree.
Here in the city of Hagerstown. So this month, I can't say enough about this guy. I never even heard about him or knew of him until I was just heard a couple things, and he performed at a local place recently. Resident of Hagerstown. He's been here since middle school. He attended middle school right here in Hagerstown.
Wow.
Yeah, but really beautiful poetic music, very soulful music. He mentions how he his music expresses either his own experiences or those that he knows. The fellow's name is Lico.
Okay.
Real nice guy. In fact, he started out in the first couple of rounds of American Idol.
Oh, really?
But then got out because he wanted to pursue other musical interests. So a really talented guy, even has some international acclaim, a beautiful voice, multi-instrumentalist, and Lico is his name. Some beautiful songs, and he's on all the social media, including YouTube, and there are a couple of his songs that are really good. Check them out, Highlands and Safe and Warm, and really moving. So we can't recommend enough, and so as we go out with the podcast, we'll be able to listen to some of his music.
Yeah, I listened to Safe and Warm this morning while we were preparing for the podcast. It's very good. It's always shocking when you come across local artists like this. They're here. They're living amongst us, in Hagerstown, and that's awesome. So I think you can go see him or listen to him on Spotify and iTunes and YouTube. I listened to him on Apple Music this morning. So.
Yeah, awesome.
All right. Well, I think that about does it.
All right.
And now you can listen to Safe and Warm by Lico. Thanks for listening.
When we were younger, I thought we had it made. Yeah, we were young. I still get butterflies when I see your face. Yeah, we were young. Remember this, when we were kids, when we found the love for each other. Your heart so big, we took the risk. Don't you know you tugged on my heartstrings? You made it hard to breathe, and I've felt so empty. Now we're a masterpiece. Hold tight and don't let go. Whether it's rain or it's snow, yeah, we'll dance in the storm. And when we're done, I'll keep you safe and warm. To say the least, I always knew you better. me crazy now that we are old. The mountains that we climbed to reach each other. The life we made couldn't get much better. Through highs and lows, I'll still choose you forever. Don't you know you tugged on my heartstrings? You made it hard to breathe, and I've felt so empty. Now we're a masterpiece. Hold tight and don't let go. Whether it's rain or it's snow, yeah, we'll dance in the storm. And when we're done, I'll keep you safe and warm.